Welcome back, my friends. Episode 23. I titled it No Need for News. And as I'm recording this, I'm looking at the latest edition of The Economist next to me. In fact, it just popped through the mail slot of my friend's house yesterday, where I'm spending the weekend. And it has this nice, colorful cover with a catchy headline. Trump's America. And I'm tempted. Luckily, I have too much other work to do, so I don't have time to peek into it. But years ago, I was an avid reader. I would devour every article of The Economist. I appreciated the critical and yes, often liberal perspective it provided. But it also gave me a great overview of what was going on in the world. Short articles on key developments, longer articles on more prominent matters. The Economist traveled with me everywhere, even to the gym. It's a very light, thin magazine that just kind of fits into every pocket. And it provided me with conversation topics at dinner parties. I was able to chime in with comments when the topics revolved around world events. And today, well, I'm still interested in the world. But I definitely can't keep up anymore at the dinners and events with those topics. Yep, I'm pretty much in the dark when it comes to the news, I admit it. And years ago, I would have told you, you need to keep informed. This is your world, and it's your responsibility to know what's going on in this world. And you will be a better educated person if you do. And so on. So you wonder, what changed? Well, I haven't only eliminated The Economist, although I still appreciate the magazine, but I also don't watch TV anymore. I sometimes listen to NPR when it happens to be on in the car, but rarely. I get New York Times alerts on my phone, and that is how I know if something major happened. But the main reason for me is that I just don't have time. It was a chore to keep up. Let me tell you, The Economist comes weekly, and the articles are not People's Magazine style. They are well written, and you need to focus if you want to get anything out of them. I realize I put undue pressure on myself. But that's me. When I do something, I go for it 100%. There's no dilly-dally. And then when the magazines piled up on my living room table, I began to collect them. Later, I always said to myself, I'll catch up. Well, I'm sure you know how that goes. I finally took them to work and put them on the giveaway table. And the thing is, I don't miss them. I don't miss the news. Yes, I feel a little bit in the dark, but I also feel free. My time is freed up. You see, reading the news was an activity that didn't add much value to my life. Does that sound a little bit selfish? Possibly, but let's take the statements from earlier and evaluate them. You need to keep informed. Well, I think the need to keep informed needs to be decided by each person individually, and it should be based on your interests. I inform myself on things that I feel I need to know in order to accomplish my goals. Informing to me is not just an activity in itself without connection. It needs to have purpose. And news by themselves don't have purpose for me. But if you are a political writer or a journalist, news are critical to you. So back to point 1, it is decided on an individual level, not via a blank statement. This is your world, and it's your responsibility to know what's going on in this world. To this, I would say that action trumps everything. Information is one thing, but what are you doing about it? My motives with news feeds were purely for consumption. I wasn't thinking of going to Syria and help fight in a war. If you're planning to contribute to the world, then applause to you, and please stay informed as a means of inspiration. But for most people, this is not the case. Consuming doesn't add value to the lives of others until you apply the knowledge in some way. And the last point was, you will be a better educated person if you do. Well, to that I would argue and say that education is a little bit of a strong word here. Will you be better informed? Yes. But really, all this news reading is not so glamorous. What happens is you mostly form an opinion about topics and events in your head. You take sides, you decide to agree with some things and not with others. And unless your social circle is very politically active, where you're constantly challenged to speak up about political events, you have very few opportunities to really utter them. And that's what I found. I was informed, but was I better educated? Not really. To call it education, I think you really have to take a deep dive into political and economic affairs. You don't have to follow my path. For me, my focus is on other areas. News don't add much value to my goals and objectives. I don't suggest this to everyone. Instead, I want to give you the following guideline. When it comes to news and political and current affairs, I suggest you apply what we talked about in previous episodes. Focus on your goals and focus on what is of importance to you. Think how it fits into your life and your journey. Everything you do should somehow connect to your purpose. So always ask yourself, what are my motives with this? If you're just trying to keep up with your friends, then think about whether or not this is the right motive. If it's not making you happy inside, and you're doing it as a means to an end, then it may not be the right thing. For some people, news, especially negative news, is a form of distraction. Distraction away from their issues. A form of creating unnecessary drama in their lives. Maybe they're using it as a form to draw attention. Wow, have you heard? And how can this be? And they get all into this. You want to fill your body and your mind with what is good for you, not what is good for your friends and other people. If you're passionate about staying engaged with the world, then do so. But remember, the world is huge. So your next question should be, what specifically is it that interests me? I would suggest to narrow your focus down. There are sections in The Economist I either struggled through because I felt I had to, or sometimes I guiltily skipped them. But I always inhaled the European news. It's very obvious why. So find your focus. Is it a specific country you're interested in? Or a certain conflict, such as a war? Is it the community you live in, or the religion you follow? Are elections coming up and you want to stay informed on the candidates? Don't just blindly consume. Narrow your focus, and this will also help you with the education part we talked about. Diving deep will help you become educated about your area of interest. And lastly, I want you to keep in mind, the news is a business. Papers, TV stations, websites, everyone is trying to make money. Narrowing your focus will help with that. Maybe you just pick 1 or 2 news sources that you trust, unless you need more for work. So you decide, do you really need news? If you don't need news, if they distract you, then maybe you just stay away from them. Don't use them as something that is mind-numbing and just gets your thoughts off the things that you actually should be thinking about. Always focus on your purpose and focus on your goals. And that is my advice for today. And I wish you an awesome day. Stay focused. Much love.